How's it going, everybody? Johnny Hemberger here, the YouTube channel manager for the Houston Museum of Natural Science. In this episode of the HMNS Beyond Bones podcast, which you can find in your favorite podcast player, Craig and I are talking to Mike Rathke, the resident bird nerd here on our HMNS marketing team, about a birdwatching trip we recently took to the Rio Grande Valley. It's a really fun interview. Check it out.
Hey folks, Craig Lavati here at the Houston Museum of Natural Science. This is, of course, another episode of the HMNS Beyond Bones podcast, now available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, including that one, possibly that one, and definitely YouTube, because if you're watching us right now, hi, you're watching us on YouTube. Hi, how are you doing? Good, great, grand. Yes, today's episode is, we're doing a little, backtracking. Because this episode, recap, thank you, Johnny. Kat's not here today. Kat is, she's got jury duty. And I usually, when I get jury duty, I just mark on there, don't you know who I am? I can't be doing this. I don't have time for this. And then I send it back. I haven't had jury duty in a long time. Anyway, Kat Havens is not here because she is doing her civic duty by sitting in a Harris County courtroom. Today we are joined by our colleague, Mike Rathke. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Yes. Happy to be here.
Sorry for the overlong intro there.
That was cool.
You guys are you guys right now are listening and watching to three guys that drove down to the Rio Grande Valley last month to go look at birds.
Yeah.
On telephone poles.
Macho stuff.
This episode is all about our birding trip down to the Rio Grande Valley. And we dragged along my friend Andrew Dansby from the Houston Chronicle and his friend Jay Dryden and our curator of vertebrate zoology, Dan Brooks. Dan couldn't make it today. Dan, we miss you. We love you. Thanks for all the insight. It was a heck of a trip, guys. I'm still reeling from it. We had a good time birding. That was my first time birding. But Mike, it was not your first time. You've been a birder about the past 15, 20 years?
True. I mean, if we want to, I want to say my whole life.
Let's say your whole life. A lifelong birder.
Because my dad is a birder. So kind of by default, I've been around bird watching my whole life. But it's fair to say last 15 years, 20 years, I've been pretty aggressive about it.
Yeah, and we dragged everybody down there to look at the bat falcon, or to catch a glimpse of this mysterious bird called the bat falcon. If you guys don't know, birding is a pretty big deal, and it's become a very big deal, especially since March of 2020, when COVID happened. Everybody remembered that you can go outside. Mm-hmm. And it's nice out there, and there's animals that you can see. Yeah. And I know, Mike, your current birding love affair restarted with COVID. Getting out there with your family, with your daughter. And if you guys don't know, we have a lot of videos and a lot of photos. It's very kid-centric here at HMNS. Totally. And Mike's daughter is our star of some of those photos and videos. You ever see a cute little girl pointing at a screen or, dancing or doing something? That's Zoe that's doing all that work. So, and you and Zoe, I know, went birding a few times. So she's used to the whole dad's a birder now.
Yeah. And Zoe's a pretty good little birder, and she calls them out when we're driving. She'll tell me she saw one, and she's IDing them pretty good. So yeah, proud papa over here for sure.
Now, Johnny, had you ever been birding before you?
I have never been officially birding. I have said plenty of times, "What's that?" So maybe, and I think that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg of becoming a birder is seeing something fly through the air and asking, "What's that?" I think, most people, unfortunately, I think as we become older, we start asking, what's that? Or why does that happen less and less? Yeah. So I pride myself on seeing things that I don't recognize. Is that a condor, or is that just a turkey vulture? Usually it's a vulture or whatever. A condor. Yeah, I have seen California condor. I've been to San Diego Zoo and everything. Awesome. Those things are pterodactyls, man. Yeah. But no, I've never officially gone out bird watching. The first time I went on in any sort of official capacity was with Mike and Dan a few months ago, and this was kind of what like spurred on the whole bird trip thing. Is we went to what's the cemetery here in Houston off of Washington?
Glenwood.
Yeah.
Glenwood. Yeah. We went
Glenwood
there
is Glenwood. If you guys know about that, I'm trying to get somebody from Glenwood on the show. Glenwood is where Howard Hughes is buried. Mm-hmm. Roy Hoffines, plenty of other, Houston luminaries. Pretty much everybody that has a street named after them is probably buried there. Go on.
So we went there to find a woodpecker. Mike, what exactly was the woodpecker? What's the name?
Red-naped woodpecker.
Was it the red-naped sapsucker?
Yeah. You're right.
So that was like a random Thursday morning, 10 a.m. Mike's like, hey, you want to just come out here or whatever? I was like, yeah, I got this old camera that was used in a TV show called Sunny in Philadelphia. I was like, I'll bust it out. I'll try to think. Because the whole premise to me, and I think to a lot of people, just lay people, is kind of ridiculous. Like, yeah, we're going to look for a red-naped sapsucker in a cemetery. I was like, that title alone, yes, I'm going to come out there and we're going to shoot this video. Yeah. It'll be like a cute 2-minute thing, kind of a parody of that TV show. And I'm kind of regretting that I brought the camera out because, and I'll put like a clip over here on the podcast. It's a standard definition camera. And half the reason I brought it is my layperson birding brain, my bird brain, was that, okay, we're looking for one bird, and that's way outside of its region. In the video, you can see, Mike's pointing out this red-naped sapsucker should be way over here to the west, but it is hundreds of miles over here spotted in a Houston cemetery. I was like, okay, so one bird, we're probably not going to see it. I'll bring this old camera because it'll just be a cute video to do. And then we found the bird, or Mike found the bird. He's the first one to spot it. And I was like, now I wish I had a good 4K camera that I could zoom in and see like really well. But it worked out great. Dan was there and he got very excited, and that led to us going to the Rio Grande Valley again to specifically look for one bird in the entire country that has never ever been here before, the bat falcon. The first one ever. And Mike, I'll let you take over from here, but I had 50-50 hopes, but I would say maybe I had like 51% high hopes, because the very first time I went out birding with you, we got on the bird. We saw the bird. I was like, well, if I'm with anybody, Mike and Dan are going to put us on this bird. So I was very ecstatic, had my new 4K camera ready to rock so we could get some good footage of this bird if and when we found it. But yeah, it was great. Mike, can you talk about that trip a little bit?
Yeah. So the bat falcon, and I don't know what it is about birders, but you mentioned the red-naped sapsucker, and it was out of range. And for whatever reason, when birds are out of range, people flock, pun intended. People come in droves to go see the bird. The bat falcon can be found in Central America and South America. Pretty not super common, but you can definitely find them there. But the fact that he's so far out, and he was a male, he was so far out of range, people came from all over the world actually to come see that bat falcon. And it's just a special, very cute falcon with the mask. I'm assuming you'll put a picture up here.
Yeah.
But he's adorable, and also when we spotted him, he kind of plays to the crowd. Johnny, you can attest to that. Like, he was atop a perch, which was a electricity pole, and he was atop, and he just looking down at each birder. And
what do you guys want? Like, or it's like. It's like paparazzi, like, okay, hey, bat falcon, look over here. Okay, look over there. Smile for us. Smile for the camera. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because he can fly off, but he chose to he hung for like an hour just sitting there, letting everyone photograph him and look at him, which was cool.
We had somebody on Twitter this past week ask, and I sent this question over to Dan, but they asked, since it's the Bat Falcon, is this Bat Falcon coming to the United States to terrorize and eat all of our native bats? And then Dan, responded, obviously, like, no, there's way too many bats for that, and there's not that many Bat Falcons. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that this past Sunday in the Houston Chronicle, you were on the front cover of the lifestyle section.
That was
just
cool.
A giant centerfold or a giant thing of your picture that Andrew Dansby at the Chronicle was thank you, Andrew, a million times for using that photo. And Jay Dryden was out with us too. And Jay's a great photographer too. But Mike, you nailed that Bat Falcon, and it's just a beautiful photo.
That was so cool. By the way, Jay's photos, I got his catalog. Yes. Phenomenal. He's an awesome photographer.
It was a cool little group. And if you read the story in the Chronicle, I know it, all three of us have, obviously. Andrew is one of my my mentors, I guess, when it comes. He's kind of like a big brother to me. During my writing career, he was always, my North Star, as it were. And he was always a good person to sort of bounce a ball off. And the birding trip definitely impacted him at a perfect time. And I won't say a perfect time, but he's gone through a lot of adversity lately, and he really did need that trip. It was just, a handful of us guys on the road down in McAllen and Brownsville and South Padre Island. It's just, looking up at birds, and he really did need that trip. Mike, I'll ask you this too. In the birding world, is that sort of a common thread, that it's a very therapeutic, thrilling, obviously, but it's also a therapeutic hobby?
I think so. I certainly get that from it.
Yep.
I think there's kind of two aspects. I think people do use bird watching differently. There is a bit of a sport about it where people are trying to build their life list and check off birds. Okay, I saw that bird, check it off.
Yep.
But, and that's awesome and important. And every birder, every true birder has a life list. But I'm definitely more on the side of how Andrew felt about it, in that, it is therapeutic. We spend so much time on screens and with work and with responsibility. So it's a very peaceful, cool, Zen way to get out in nature and stay engaged by trying to find and observe these birds. But it's very, it's rewarding in that it's a step away from screens. It's fresh air, vitamin D. And I think that's very beneficial for your mental health.
It could be a solo pursuit, or it can be a group pursuit, because I know the first little parking lot that we went to, because we went to a few places in McAllen, and the first place, I think one of the first places we all squatted up at, that's a Mike word, by the way. Squatted up is a Mike word. That's a Mike word. That's a Mike phrase. We've worked together so long now, we all sort of speak each other's language. But one of the first places we went was the parking lot of a city park, and we were looking for parrots, because we weren't just looking for the Bat Falcon, we were looking for parrots too. And we went to this parking lot, there's like softball fields, soccer fields. Yeah. It's twilight, I guess. So it's that golden hour time where everything is really pretty and peaceful. The weather was good. And we're looking at these parrots, the kind of parrots that you would see like in a pet store, on this power line. And nearby, there were people from all over the world, it seems like, in their rent cars, and they had just flown down there to go birding inside in the Rio Grande Valley. And I had no clue of that. That was a world, I thought that I knew everything about Texas, but that was completely unbeknownst to me that was that's an attraction.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't think of Texas that way. I was going to mention too, we saw them, but we sure did hear them, right? I mean, it was, you couldn't miss it. They were extremely loud as a group, which was funny because the locals were they were numb to it. And it was almost like you almost couldn't handle how loud those parrots were. was unreal.
I'm pretty sure I said some words that probably shouldn't be used in a family science museum video, just exclaiming like, just because it wasn't because I was aggravated, it was because I was excited, but it was also like, this is really loud. And like, imagine living next to that.
I had the microphone sensitivity on my camera set to absolute minimum, and those birds were 30 feet above our heads and flying
in the red, man.
It was peaking my meters. I was like, these birds are 40 feet away. And by the way, Craig mentioned it was a park. It was very much a park, but it wasn't like a nature reserve. There's like you said, there's basketball courts and tennis courts and baseball
kids
fields.
Smoking cigarettes and all kinds of stuff. It was a typical, youths having
street toughs.
Yeah, there was kids, and one of the things I think I remember noticing this was I love there was the cacophony of the parrots screaming, basically saying, hey, we're here. Mm-hmm. And then there was the kids' soccer game going on a few yards away. And it was like just this loudness, just this just a loud, because that's the thing. There's some birds that definitely announce their presence in certain ways, and then like the bat falcon, from what I understand, he was completely silent. Right? He wasn't yelling, "Hey, everybody, I'm here," or squealing or anything. He was just very stoic.
And that's more traditional about bird. That's more typical bird watching, is you're trying to find the bird. Those parrots didn't make it very difficult. Everyone told us they were at that park. We went, they screamed at us when we saw them, and it was easy. Now, the thing about the bat falcon that was kind of cool is he had been so observed because it made such a splash in the birding community. I feel like big media kind of was late to the game on bat falcon. He'd actually been there in late 2021. He had been hanging out for a couple months, but he had such a routine. He was at the ponds catching dragonflies, and then at dusk he'd be at his perch out on the highway, and in the morning between the hours of 7, 8 a.m. he was at this perch. So he did, not to take away any of the cool adventure and the hunt we did to find him, because we did miss him several times in those spots. But yeah, it was well documented where he liked to hang. So that was kind of the saving grace on finding him for us, is it was his whereabouts were already kind of documented.
Yeah, and there's it even got international notoriety too, because the Andrew wrote a story initially, I think that a day or two after we came home, about seeing the bat falcon, and obviously he wrote another story later on down the line, but that got picked up by the Smithsonian and some other national outlets, international outlets that linked all back to our work, and that felt really special too. We were so cool. We were part of like this little community then. Is there any birding spots here in Houston that, if people are listening right now, if you're in the Houston area, where can people go and see some, maybe not the bat falcon, but something like that?
Yeah, maybe not the bat falcon, not the bat falcon, but there are Houston. Actually, our area is one of the best areas in the U.S. Honestly, coming up, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Spring migration is upon us. It's officially started, but it doesn't get really cooking until mid-April, where everyone goes, and this is hands down the mecca for spring migration, is just south of us at High Island. At High Island, there's 3 different spots that are really awesome bird sanctuaries. There's Boy Scout Woods, Smith Oaks Sanctuary, and Eubank Woods Bird Sanctuary. What happens is when migration's really up and going, all the birds are moving from South America, and they come up, they follow the coast, they kind of congregate at the Yucatan Peninsula, and then they launch off, and they'll shoot over the Gulf. Most of them will actually fly over the Gulf. Some of them will follow the coast, but the first thing that juts out is this High Island. So it's the first bit of land they see. So it's a super crucial stopover for these migratory birds who are tired and hungry and need a drink. And all these sanctuaries on High Island, on that peninsula, serve as just an awesome spot to come see all these birds. What's cool is they're tired. And so they're in the trees and they're not really trying to be very elusive, and they're just there grabbing a drink. So they're kind of not bothered by bird watchers. And it's like when we went birding, us down to Rio Grande Valley, we did, quite a bit of searching. Spring migration, it's like extreme birding. It's like hardcore, fast, rapid. There's warblers, orioles. They're like, trees are just loaded with several different species, and you hit it on the right day, and I mean, you'll just see countless species.
And when we went to the Rio Grande Valley, it was one of the most windiest weeks.
Yeah.
We were driving back and forth, guys. We were just pummeled by wind. I'm sure gas mileage was, not that gas mileage is going to be good for anybody at this point. Thanks a lot, Russia. But, we definitely were driving against the wind a lot of times. And I remember asking Dan a few times, oh yeah, it's like 30-mile-an-hour gusts. Is this okay for the birds? And Dan was like, what was Dan? I forgot what Dan's response was to that.
The answer was no. That's why we missed the bat falcon.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
He was probably hunkered down. Yeah, the gusts were more like in the 50s, weren't they?
Were they?
Yeah, I would say there were probably a few over 70. Like it was extreme. It was the most wind I've ever experienced outside of Hurricane Ike. Actually, yeah. And Hurricane Ike was a completely different level.
And this was just normal, guys. This was not like abnormal. It was like beautiful outside. It was like sunny and 60 degrees, but just your face was being pummeled.
Gale force, winds. Like it blew Dan's hat off. I captured that in the video. It's beautiful slow motion. But yeah, Dan was saying the birds, for the most part, they'll hunker down and they'll stay below the tree line. So when we went out there, I don't mean to step on you, Mike, but it kind of, our odds of seeing the bat falcon, although, was it you or Dan that think you saw it out there?
That was Dan. Who I have to admit is a much better birder than me. His life list is like extreme. He's been all over the world to see birds, and he's so it's possible we saw one that kind of fit the description. It was pretty far off, so I didn't feel comfortable counting it for me. But yeah, that was Dan who had spotted. I think he might have had a better look at it, and like I said, he's a little better at IDing than I am. So,
and Dan is so meticulous about what he does. Obviously, he's a doctor, he's a science doctor, so he definitely he's got that meticulous bone about him. But I always love being in the presence of somebody who is that obsessed with something like this and has that such a passion and a love for it. And I've found myself surrounded by more people like that since I came to the museum. Yeah. And it was really cool watching all of y'all, gush over this. Even when, and I would be remiss if we've told the story already, but one of the parks we went to was the Santa Ana, was it Nature Reserve, right? Wildlife Reserve,
where the bat falcon was.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell the story really quick. So we got out there that morning. I drank a Red Bull and was ready to go. And I met everybody. I thought I was going to meet everybody out at the park, but apparently I got there, a few minutes too late. So I missed you guys walking in there. Blame me for waking up late inside the hotel,
the Alamo Inn.
And I get there and I'm wearing hiking shoes, jeans, gray t-shirt, and probably this hoodie, I think. And I was excited because I was like, yeah, I'm going to go walking through this. I was going to go on a little nature hike by myself. I was excited. I was going to see all my buddies eventually. Mm-hmm. And I keep walking and then I can't find anybody. And so then I go back to the front and answer some emails because, believe it or not, I am working 24 hours a day, even on a birding trip. And I was answering emails. And then I'm like, I'm going to go find these guys again. So I texted Mike, and, cell phones worked over there. It was fine. I was like, hey, where are you guys? You told me where you were going to be. So I got to walking, and I kept walking. And I walked a little bit more, started sweating a little bit because it was getting warm. It was towards noontime. And, I'm usually an inside cat. I don't. Anyway, I keep walking, and then all of a sudden I come up upon a road, and I find out through the magic of a border patrol agent that I am a little too close to the Mexican border, and I have actually crossed over unbeknownst to me, and I got a ride back to the nature reserve HQ on the back of a border patrol truck. I was in the bed of the truck, and like Mike was coming out to try to find me. I guess they were going to try to put an all points out bulletin for the tattooed guy that's lost in the middle of the park. And I was, picked up, and I was fine. And I was, they went cragging instead of birding. They went cragging, and they found me.
I understand their suspicion because 99% of the people out there have, binoculars,
and I'm
hiking backpacks and fanny packs. And, you were just kind of had your phone, and you're traveling light, which I respect. I do respect that. But they were like,
it was definitely one of those PR guy moments, because I was there because as a public relations director now at the museum, I was there to sort of officiate, make sure everything went okay, make sure that the Chronicle guys got what they needed and everybody was happy. But it was definitely one of those moments where I was like in the middle of there. I was like, well, I mean, if I keep walking this way, maybe I'll find a road that has like thank you to the Border Patrol for picking me up.
7 miles. You did 7 miles. I don't know how long you were in the truck, but your route, we looked at your route later, and it was like 7.2 or something like that.
It was funny. And then when I came back, like I couldn't walk correctly for about a week because like I said, I normally, like when I do cardio, it's like, on elliptical or something, but my feet were just destroyed from all the driving we were doing and then everything else just moving around. And so I was kind of hobbling for a few days, but that was my birding trip. And that was a great park. That's one of those things that's one of the great things about Texas. About Texas is that you can find nature everywhere, and we've done a really good job, and I'm sure we could probably do a better job anyway, of keeping some of those parks pristine, for the coming generations. But definitely the Santa Ana was beautiful.
So when it comes to birding, that's a really good point. The bat falcon so happened to be spotted in a beautiful wildlife refuge. But one thing we pointed out in the video, and as Mike explained to me, a few times, is like you could be in a Whataburger parking lot. This rare bird can be behind a dumpster, and that's kind of the whole thing. And it reminds me a little bit,
above the dumpster, It
yes, in the like whatever, wherever it was spotted. All these extremely diverse places, and I bring that up because I want people who are listening to this or getting interested in birding to understand that it doesn't mean you have to load up your Jeep and go cruising out into the desert somewhere or go to the rainforest in Brazil or something like that to find these birds. You can find some pretty rare birds and very beautiful birds and unique birds literally down your street. They could be flying through their backyard. They could be going through the Jack in the Box parking lot. So don't think that to be a bird watcher. What's up?
Are you hungry?
I've got a
Whataburger, Jack in a Box, pizza. Like we're just.
But the birds are everywhere. I
know. Yeah.
And you want to go to Whataburger anyway. So maybe this is some expert radio segue stuff right here. Before we, speaking of Subway and going to Subway and to Whataburger and everything like that.
Subway now. Wow. Yeah. Now there's
the Subway dumpster eating that unleavened bread. Anyways, Mike was talking to us off camera before we started about some apps and websites and resources that people can use to find the nearest kind of rarer sightings or unique sightings around them. Like I said, doesn't mean you have to go down to the tip of Patagonia or something like that. You can see, hey, when in my local area, what's been spotted.
Yeah.
Mike, what are some resources that people can use to find that kind of information?
Yeah, a big one is Texas Rare Bird Alert. And I assume you'll drop these links somewhere in here. But Texas Rare Bird Alert is really good. And then actually Facebook, the birding groups, Texas birding groups, there's Texas Coastal Birding. If you just search different birding groups on Facebook, that's a wonderful spot because people are reporting from their backyards and their local parks, and it's not just a tight area. So you get really good info from there. There is a cool app that I wanted to tell people, or excuse me, a website I did want to tell people about for migration, and it's called Birdcast. All one word, capital B, capital C, Birdcast. And what it is it's a forecast, and they use radar to show migrating birds. Wow. And so they'll actually give you a report that, tonight is a heavy bird migration forecast. So what they ask is that we participate and help them out with Lights Out Texas. Some of you probably heard of that.
Lights Out Texas is definitely, we like to get behind that at the museum for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we do. Dan was a big part of getting that going as well. But yeah, and what it is people turn out their lights. It's typically from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. These birds migrate at nighttime during those hours, so that's peak time, and it helps cut down on migratory bird mortality, deaths. They run into
light pollution too.
And light pollution too. Yeah, if you're into stars, that's a thing too. So, but yeah, Birdcast is tons of information on there about it. Something easy we can all do to participate. So yeah, that's a great one, Birdcast.
And I always tell people too, if you see a bird, you can get a photo of it. Also, the iNaturalist app, I as in igloo, naturalist.com, I believe. And you could use that to at least identify what you're seeing too, if you get a good photo of it.
So cool. And I mean, this is something that has come about in the last 10 years. When I started birding, we didn't have all these fancy apps back in my day. Yeah. We had to open a field guide and look at a field guide. But yeah, now everything is digital. eBird is a really good one too, to keep your life list and help with IDing what you're seeing. But yeah, you're right. iNaturalist is an awesome app for that.
Do you notice that more young people, I mean, I can say young people because we're all old men here.
Sure.
It's more young people that are getting into this too, right? Because it's almost one of the ways that I pitched this story to another outlet was it's like live action Pokemon Go. Yeah. And they were like, all right, cool. Millennial guy, elder millennial. Cool. Thank you for that. But no, it is sort of like, it's like a live action Pokemon Go. We went into the middle of a park to find these birds.
Yes. Yeah. When I was going to High Island for spring migration 15 years ago, I was the youngest guy by like 30 years, honestly, which is cool. Yeah. But you're right. It was, people used to kind of unfairly, call it like an old person sport or something like that. And it's cool to see younger people getting behind it. It really is.
Yeah. The pop culture, the pop culture, stereotype behind a birder is not somebody like you that listens to Wu-Tang Clan and De La Soul while they're driving to go see the birds. It's somebody's grandpa or Grammy, that are retired and they can go out there with bifocals and a pair of binoculars, from the store. It's a lot more technologically involved now.
Yeah, I think nerdy hobbies as a whole have kind of have their moment to shine lately. Don't you feel like that?
Especially after, and I mean, Johnny can talk about that kind of stuff too, how some of these hobbies now are being modernized with new technology.
Yeah.
Oh, am I supposed to talk about that now?
You can. That's why it was like a layup. We called that a layup, and I was like,
I got you. I just want to leave you hanging.
Pass the ball to you. Yeah.
A late alley-oop.
Yes.
Yeah. So something that comes to mind specifically about technology helping really being a boon for younger hobbyists in general. Very specifically, I'll say, I've got an old classic car, an 83 DeLorean, which sounds weird to say old in 1983, but it's, I guess, to a lot of people listening, that is. The point is, classic cars, whatever it is, old technology, back in the day, before apps and everything like that, you had to know a guy who knew a guy and find out through the grapevine to see how to work on something or find a problem, maybe find someone who's had a similar problem if you're lucky, and how to fix something. Now, with technology, I mentioned this in a video I made for my separate radio show, that you can pull out your iPhone or your tablet and have a service manual and have everything you need, and have hundreds of people who have experienced the exact same issue you're experiencing share their experience and how to fix it. So that really helps. Like, that's an awesome help to the younger generations. I'll leap over to birding here, that it's not your grandpa's activity, that you have to go out and you have to do this hardcore searching, which you do, but there's a lot of digital help now. There's a lot of online resources like Mike mentioned. So if you get some sort of spark or curiosity in bird watching, it's no longer this 1955 word of mouth. You're lucky if you hear about it at a convenience store and can get there in time to go find this bird. You get out your phone or your tablet and you can see where the birds are now when they were last spotted. And it was kind of a cool meld when we were at the Alamo Inn. We just talked about the technology helping with the hobby and various hobbies at the Alamo Inn, in the I call it was like a country store. It was like a, what do you call it? It had all sorts of sundries and things, and like hats and beverages and all you need for birding. But anyways, they had some old tech in there, which was just a big like paper bulletin board with a Sharpie next to it, and people would mark, hey, Bat Falcon, February 14th, 6 p.m. whatever, Santa Ana Wildlife Refuge. So if you go to places where the birders are congregating, there are also old tech ways where people, and this speaks volumes about the bird watching community, where they're so looking out for each other. Like they spot something, they didn't keep it to themselves. They could have easily just kept it to themselves where they saw this and when they saw this, but they went back as immediately as they could and wrote down in real time on the old school tech on the bulletin board where we saw what bird and where. So there's that combination of old school tech to help everybody out in the community, and then there's a combination of new school tech that really helps get new hobbyists up to speed. And I think everybody should check all the links down in the description that we'll put all the links to these apps and websites and everything like that. So if you're curious about birding, use the technology we have now to help you springboard into it, basically. That's my piece. That's my monologue.
There we go. All right, guys, this was really good. It's just three guys talking about birding. That would be a fun, we need to do more episodes, just us three talking about something random.
Three guys talking about chicks.
Yeah, talking about flying chicks.
Really?
Yeah. No, next week we'll have an episode just about me talking about baseball cards, because baseball cards has become my birding, and Lord, is it expensive. Wow. Anyway, yes, that was a great episode, guys. Mike, thank you again for, and if you love any of the photography that you see regarding the museum, it's that guy right there. Mike's the one that takes all the really pretty photos.
Thank you.
I may take some photos on my phone that I post up on Twitter, but it's all Mike. Mike has the good stuff.
His stuff is what makes the front page of papers.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Mike takes the good stuff. He's good.
I appreciate that.
So, and you are, I was telling somebody this the other day that on our marketing team, you're kind of like the daddy. Like you're like the daddy. You're the daddy. You're like the daddy of the group. Yeah, cool, no, I mean that in the most positive way. Like you're the daddy of the group. No, it's not just because you're a literal father, because we have other fathers on the group, but because you're like the daddy. You're the one that's like, good job, Slugger. You got this.
And I probably say it that way too.
Yeah, you do. You keep us all motivated. And then like I was thinking the other day that like I'm like the crazy uncle that shows up like randomly with like I don't know, like, 10 pounds of beef. And I'm like, I got this from a friend of mine. Somebody make it. And like, yeah, I'm the weird. I'm the
pack
weird
of baseball cards.
Yeah. I'm like, all
Grateful
these
Dead van.
Yeah. Guys, I had no time to explain.
He's a cool uncle.
But Mike is like the calming presence. So yes. And anyway, Thanks guys.
For having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime to this thing. It's always.
Yeah. And one last thing, man, if anyone's ever curious to come on this show, to come on this podcast, please do. These two guys make it so easy.
And Kat will listen to this.
And Kat, they know how to guide you through. So don't ever hesitate. It's awesome. It's awesome being with these guys.
You got it. Thank you, Mike. And Johnny will add all those links in there, all the pertinence, and also the link to the Houston Chronicle story about our little trip, too. I'm not going to lie, at the end, if you know Andrew, it'll probably be a little misty up in the old eyeball holes. Mike, yeah, and he's thanked me so many times through text. Anyway, guys, great show. Thank you.